Perfect. All right, welcome to the Over 40 Runner Workshop. How to become a faster, smarter, injury-free runner at ages 40 plus. So there's a lot of different things out there, I should say, that are targeted for runners, but a lot of them are targeted for younger runners, male runners. Almost all the research that we've seen now when it comes to runners on what the norms are and even different programs that we see online, a lot of them are catered to runners of different levels and ages. So my focus here is to make sure that we optimize our performance in running in our life. If you want to be able to stay on the pavement for life, you have to institute some different principles as we get older. You can still run at your best at whatever age you are, probably can run even better because maybe you've become a little bit smarter as we get older as well. So a lot of times a runner begins running even no matter what age, but even if it's a little bit after in the late 30s or so, you begin running, say, hey, I'm going to start running. You run a little bit, and then a little bit later, or a few weeks later, you might feel a little twinge in your knee, your shin, your butt, whatever. So you stretch, you pop ibuprofen, and you keep running. Then some runs later, it all falls apart and you're out of action for a minute, or you just stop running. And then you realize that your body is over 40, but you also think that maybe you're not cut out for running. That's not the case. Is that maybe you just didn't have the right tools and resources to actually hit the pavement and hit the pavement successfully. So that's why I want to be able to put this together so that you can get some tools and strategies to maybe optimize some things you're already doing, as well as maybe some things that you're not doing that could be able to be more optimal for you as we continue to run. So a little bit about myself. My name is Dr. Latisha Williams. I am a licensed physical therapist, certified health coach, as well as a certified running coach. I've been a physical therapist since 2007. In the last 3 to 5 years, I have specifically really focused on women over the age of 35 and runners over the age of 35, with learning some strategies to be able to optimize performance, function, and really total body wellness, more than just on the pavement, but also off the pavement as well. I've had 4 knee surgeries on the same knee, have arthritis as well. So I know when it comes to dealing with aches and pains, being able to rehab, get back to the pavement. I'm currently in a rehab journey right now from a surgery on last year, about a year, actually from last April is actually when I had an injury to my knee. So I'm actually still on the recovery trail, hopefully to be returning my own return to run program here coming soon in a few months. So when it comes to being prepared and bringing your best, it's good to always have guidance and a plan. With running, it's a low barrier of entry running. You need shoes. Good pair of shoes at that, but you need shoes. Don't need anything fancy. You want to get out there, you have to start number 1 with right shoes. And my number 2 is you have to have a plan. Without that plan and a strategy, that's what we set ourselves up for failure, or feeling like we can't do it, or we're too old, or too this or too that to begin. So really, where do causes of injury come from? Is it age, shoe wear, training error? Is it running the same routes all the time? Is it following certain things? Really, when it comes down to injury and being able, really it can be an anatomical issue, which is something musculoskeletal has occurred, plus a training error. So really the number 1 keys end up being training errors. And one that I always look back on is maybe you have the wrong shoes. Shoes are worn down. We always address those when I'm looking at runners or those that are active and want to be able to perform at their best. I'm going to look and see what their gear looks like, no matter what sport it is. But generally, to keep moving forward, you need a strong body. Strong body, good form, the right shoes, and a plan. So that planning really comes in the key when we begin that age 40, really age 35 and below 35 and up. Really what occurs during that time is we begin to start losing some of that calf power and that lower leg power when we have to do our push off phase. So when we push off with running, we have to have boom, push off and have that power. We begin to lose some of that as we get older. So we can't just get stronger just from hitting the pavement and from running. That's not going to be the amount of the strength that our body needs. So this is another thing that also that runners can get a little bit twisted, and maybe as we get older as well, is they will say, hey, I go to XYZ group class, or I go to step class, or I'm doing high intensity interval training. Is that cross training? Is that going to be enough for me in running? Those are all good movements and things to do for a physical fit, but those particularly do not address the muscles of running and the running mechanics that we need to have that continue to maybe have a few deficits as we're getting older. That also occurs in women as we begin to change going into perimenopause and menopause. Our hormone levels begin to shift. So our muscle mass, our muscle mass goes down, that fat mass wants to come up. So then we end up getting some more abdominal area or increase the tendency of abdominal area. So everybody thinks, oh my gosh, when I do that, now I got to run harder, or now I got to do running 4 days a week, then I got to do HIIT class, and then I need to do this. But what's happening is you're continuing to replace cardio with cardio. The real picture that turns the needle on, are you going to be able to perform at your best and hit the pavement, is really going to be instituting that strength training. So most of the group classes use both legs. In running, one of those legs are not going to be on the ground at some point. So if you always are emphasizing exercise, they're using both legs, or you go in and say, hey, I'm just going to do the modification because I have a knee or a hip or whatever issue going on. You're not still training those muscles that still need that training, or you're doing a bunch of HIIT, high intensity interval training, where it's more heart rate focused. So your entire week includes everything related to cardiovascular fitness, even if you're saying, oh, I'm doing cross training. So if you're doing classes that are HIIT, that are group classes, Kango boots, jumps, aerobics, steps, and then you're also hitting the pavement, now we're not giving those muscles what they need for strength. You're not building in strength. You're definitely doing physical activity and exercise, but it's not building the strength that we need. So our body changes over 35 include that decreased muscle power in that calf, changes in our balance as well, metabolism, and our hormones. So what things that will help us turn back the page on that is moving our bodies, picking up heavy things. We're moving our bodies on the pavement, but we're not picking up the heavy things to help with blood sugar, hormonal changes, as well as strengthening for our legs as well. And of course, we can't negate diet. You know, you can't out exercise a bad diet. So that's going to be, of course, an important key as well. So there enters one of my favorite things to talk about is going to be strength training. Talk about everybody. If you heard me before, I'm going to be pushing that as the strength training evangelist is strength training. So really when it comes to cross training, really the best thing is you need something that's going to strengthen your muscles as well as going to be aiding in recovery. So weight and resistance training is going to be that impact. The focus is, if you're a beginner, body weight. Even if you're not a beginner, there's a lot of body weight exercises that you can do, but you can't rely on that forever. We have people say, hey, I do a routine and I have my 3-pound weights and I've done this same routine for 6 months and I do, you know, a gazillion reps using these 3-pounders, and that's my strength training or cross training. If it's not challenging the body, your body's not going to shift into, now I'm going to be using muscle as an effective metabolism burner. I'm not going to be strengthening the muscles. So focus on, when you want to institute things with strength training, if you're going to a gym and you're using machines, you're starting, emphasize single leg movements. You also want to work larger muscles, so multiple muscles at the same time. So it's not just going in and doing bicep curls, but it's going in and doing leg press, some kind of squat maneuver, or even working powerful muscles in your hips and glutes as well. So if you're going to do, say you're used to going to the gym and you normally go to the gym and you do 30 minutes on the treadmill, 30 minutes on the elliptical, and then some abs, and then you leave. Try to reshift that focus on what can I do single leg rise. So like I talked about before, we begin to lose some of that power in that lower leg and calf. So we might need to work on doing some things with some seated calf raises, single leg calf raises. If you have issues with knees, then I would be saying, let's do a single leg press machine, the leg extension machine. Those are typically machines you use both legs on, but I always tell people separate the legs. Do one leg at a time. You may even have different weights on different sides, and that's going to be normal because you're going to have one leg that's probably might be stronger than the other. You might have a left knee that got some aches and pain. That's why taking them and peeling them apart instead of having both legs pushing, that stronger leg is typically going to take over and do most of the work if you're doing a leg press machine with both legs. So the weaker side that has been having issues is still not going to get the work because the stronger side is going to be taken over. So single leg movements, and our strength training really goes below 10 reps and below. If you're going into 12 and 15 reps on there, you're getting more in times of muscular endurance and not that absolute strength. So think about 8 reps and under when you're doing strength training. It should be like that last set should feel like I can't finish the set. And that's even better if you're starting out. You got 2 sets in, that third set, you got to rep 6 and you're like, oh, my form's getting bad. Stop there. So it really, the weight that you lift should be close to 60 to 75% of the max weight you can lift. If you're going to the gym, everything's easy, leg press, going 3 sets of everything, walking out the door, you're probably not getting the amount of work that you need to see the shift to really get where you're getting that strengthening. There's several other layers you can go. You can lift for power. And those really power and explosive lifts, that's like what you can do max with just 1 or 2 times. You also want to incorporate some things with plyometric training. That's basically things like jumps, medicine ball, upper body plyometrics be like medicine ball throws, or different things where your feet are off the ground, because with running, your feet are off the ground. But that's not something that you want to just jump into and start doing, hey, I'm going to start doing jumps and all this in there. You have to build that base and have to have an appropriate plan that progresses you safely in that way, so that you can continue to be on the pavement. Because you don't want to be like, hey, I was doing cross training and now I jacked myself up and now I can't run because I took the program offline. They told me to do the XYZ jump program and I did it. So that progression is body weight, then adding in some shape. Your beginner body weight, and with body weight things, you could do a single leg bridge. That's one leg. You could also do leg raises. You could also do a combination of things that work on your glutes, as well as hamstrings, quads, and calves. Major and larger muscle groups that you need for running. You need those in general everyday life. When I ask people about, hey, what you do when you squat? Well, no, I don't squat. I got bad knees. Well, every time you sit on that toilet, you're squatting. Every time you get in the car, in and out of the car, you're squatting. You pick up groceries out of the trunk, you're squatting. So it's all functional movements that we're going to have to do and continue to do. It's just the way that you think about it. People think about squatting, like, oh my gosh, I got to wait and I have to, my heels got to touch my butt. No, all these functional movements that we would do to become a better runner is the things we need to do to be stronger and more mobile as we age. So they all overlap with those. So this is one area that a lot of runners get guilty of. It's okay if I'm stepping on your toes. If you have not did that trusty stretch after the run. See, I've been guilty of it too. Sometimes that, if you have time as a component, you're like, hey, I'm all done. Get in the car. Let's go. I got to go into the meeting. Got to get dressed for work. I got to go home and cook dinner. I got to do this with the kids. And we kind of missed that whole stretching bit. Or part of the time we thought it was time, but we did kind of sit in that parking lot after the group run and talk for a good 5-10 minutes and didn't get any stretching in. The stretching does not help us if we wait till we get home to do it. Now, stretching in general and working on some things mobility wise on other days is perfect, but especially when you get over 40, we have to work smarter, not harder. The way our muscles are going to be able to recover quicker and be able to perform better is even if and decrease some tightness so that that next run, you're not feeling as stiff, knocking out at least about a 5-minute stretch. You can hold those positions 20 to 30 seconds. So if you just have short for time, then just focus on hip flexors, calves, and hamstrings. If those are the only things that you can get in during that time period, knock those out 20 to 30 seconds, and it'd be 5 minutes. Once you're home, sitting down, doing this and that, everything's cold at that point. You kind of miss that window to kind of really capitalize as much as you can on that stretching post run if you wait until you get home. Now, not to say on off days, another time you can't work on some tight areas where you need to, but to capitalize after a run, and especially over long runs, is to be able to really get that last little bit of stretching component in. So that goes down to that next one is where you talked about kind of that cool down, but the warm up is important as well. If you're talking about shorter runs, say you're just doing a week, you're normally during the week runs, 3-4 miles, stuff like that. No, it doesn't take some prolonged routine to go out and warm up before. It could just be that you walked or eased into your run. You walked for a bit and then you began running, or you started slower into the run. The only time I say anything about some other warm-ups during those short runs is if you've been having a nagging little ache, you're recovering from something, you notice something's kind of starting to act up a little bit, I would do more of a dynamic warm-up. And dynamic doesn't mean the same stretch we did at the end, which is the prolonged holding for 20, 30 seconds. It's going to be the movement related. Leg swings, squats, butt kicks, getting your body moving, especially in colder weather as well, is you popping out of bed and everything being cold, and then boom, you're out there. You'll get through it. You know, as we did, our bodies can do amazing things, but it may not be pretty. It might end up kind of ugly eventually. You may not feel it at that point in time, like, oh, I'll be okay, I'll just skip it this time. But as the weeks go on, and if you're in a particular training cycle, training for a particular race, it may not be in week 2 you feel it. It may be in week 7 or 8, and then you're getting ready to race in a couple of weeks. And now you're trying to play catch up in emergency mode so that you can get to the pavement, not taped up in masking tape and duct tape and KT tape and every other tape. So think about those small things that will push the needle forward for you so that you can continue to keep moving and you don't have these setbacks in there. And that all goes into how you plan, your day. More intense workouts, hills, intervals, speed work. You're going to need just more warm-up time for those type of workouts. Those are going to be more taxing and more demanding. You're going to have probably shorter bouts or higher intensive intervals when you're doing things like that. So that is where I would take more time in that warm-up phase to really get your body prepared for those type of workouts, because those are like in the number 2 and 3 slots a lot of times, in which I notice where an injury has occurred, someone has seen me, or they've shied away from doing speed work because they're like, every time I do speed work, I get hurt. That's that number one thing that tells me that you're incorporating speed work either too early, or you're not prepared, you're not getting the proper warm down. That's the alert that tells me, like, it's not the speed work that's hurting you, it's what you did in the preparations before. Or they decided to hop on with the group. They're maybe a newer runner and they're like, all right, we're gonna do hills today. And you may be a newer runner and you're not ready to do hills, but the group did them. So you were fine during that hill training, but a couple weeks later, it pops up that, man, my shin's been bothering me, or my heel or my knee's starting to get, oh, it's no big deal. And then no big deal tumbles into a big deal. Now you're down, motivation level goes down. You're saying, I can't run. Every time I start running, I get hurt. It's all about in that preparation and planning and preparing your body for the task. In our 20s, we probably didn't think about that. Oh, what's gonna pop up? No big deal. I can get 2 hours of sleep and then get right on up and have a full day and do this and that. Now, if I get 2-3 hours of sleep, it's maybe 2 or 3 or 4 days before I feel like I can recover from those several short days. So think about our recovery time, which is what we're going to bump into next. Think about making your recovery a priority. We're in the culture, and we can see it, and a lot of us we could be guilty as well, is that we get stuck in that mantra of no days off, never miss a Monday. And we're glorifying all of these things that are saying you're weak, or you're not a runner, or you're not if you take a day off, or you don't do a XYZ running streak. So we have to really shift our mindset on that and what recovery looks like, and to know it's okay to listen to your body and rest, and don't feel guilty about it. And don't apologize at it either. Sorry, y'all, I'm not going to be able to make it today because of such and such. No, listen to your body, because I'm all about setting us up to run for the long run and not for the short term. So burning your body out and never missing a Monday and no days off, and you're broke down, that's not going to do any good at all. So I've seen a quote the other day, and it said, too many people wear their burnout as a badge of honor. And that's literally when we start getting into some of those things, what can be occurring. Now, not to say if you want to do a run streak and you want to do that, that's perfectly fine, but know that you want to prioritize your recovery and your body healing, because you can do all the training in the world. Our gains come in our recovery. We could be training. If you're not getting enough sleep, you're setting yourself up for injury. If your hydration is off, you're setting yourself up. Your body's not able to get, your joints need water. They need that to survive. They need that to be lubricated to get going, because the more you're dehydrated, what shows up in your runs is that once you start getting dehydrated, then that's when the form gets off. We're not getting that. You start feeling like, the Tin Man out there. The engine is not ready to go. You need oil. Water is our oil for our joints. So you notice sometimes when it gets a little bit tougher with things and that hydration, and you didn't fuel properly, recovery, then that's when that incidence of those injuries occur. And we also need to work on our mobility. So our mobility is the ability to move or be freely moved easily. Our flexibility has to do, yes, with that mobility, but it's also about how well our muscles and our muscle length flexibility. So a lot of people think, oh my gosh, I got to stretch, or I don't feel like stretching, or you feel like you have to be a yoga, level 3 yoga practitioner and you have to do all this stretching, your leg behind your head and all that. You don't need that much mobility, flexibility to run. Just in normal everyday life, you don't need that. So that's why I tell people mobility is how your joints are going to be moving, and you need good mobility, because if you have a tight hip joint, that hip's not going to be happy when you get on the pavement and start pounding and you get into mile 6, 7, and 8. And you'd be like, oh, there's no problem with my I stretch my hamstrings all the time, or I foam roll myself to death. It's not, I'm good to go. But if your joints aren't moving the way they need to be, you have a tight hip, your ankles are tight, your low back mobility isn't where it needs to be at, that's where we want to make sure that we're focusing on that mobility part. So recovery means prioritizing your rest, sleep, your hydration, your mobility, greater than being super flexible. And then our sleep patterns are also a change. If you're having any change with hormones, and you've had the change or perimenopausal, like me, pre-change going on, where the sleep starts getting disrupted, night sweats, popping up, and then you're like, okay, I'm still going to get up at XYZ time and run, and you've had a terrible night of sleep. Yes, there are times you can do that, but a habit of doing that, it'll begin to show up in overtraining, wearing down, burnout, all the above. So currently the CDC, as far as sleep recommendations, adults 18 to 60, it's going to be 7 hours plus of sleep. Once you get greater than age 60, it actually increases. 7 to 9 hours is the recommendations. So like I was saying before, our gains come in our recovery and when you sleep. So being able to make sure you prioritize that. If you felt like sleep was bad on a regular training run or something like that, and you're going through a training cycle, if it's a run to miss, it would be the shorter weekly runs, not your long run. But you also don't want to go through and miss all your weekly runs and just do the long runs either. So the purpose of the long run is to be able to carry you forth and get your body accustomed to hitting the pavement at that, for that duration and for that, that length of time. So prioritizing that will be able to be helpful for you. Even when going back to the warming up and the cooling down, if time is a factor, I've even told people cut your run a few minutes short if you need to make sure you get that cool down portion completed. So you don't have time as an effort. Even though I'm kind of, really type A with that clock, too. I'm like, if it says 3.97, I'm going to run past the house until I get to that 4. So, so even if you have to like, cringe and be like, I got to cut it short a little bit, it'll help you in the long run with being able to make sure or adjust somewhere in your schedule where you can get that 5 minutes so that you can have that time to do the cool down and stretch component. Because I call that's a part of your workout. Don't think it's just the run. I have 4 miles on my plan a day and that's the workout. The workout also includes that warm up and that cool down portion. A couple of tools for mobility I always think about is the lacrosse ball, the foam roller actually for calf mobility, kind of like smashing your calf back and forth, rolling it back on the foam roller. I'm not a super duper fan of just foam rolling yourself when you feel like it's tight, because sometimes that tightness is masking weakness. So if you find yourself always like, man, my hips always feel tight. Let me foam roll. That might actually be that you have some weakness in those hip flexors, that fatigue shows up as you go farther and farther into your run. You may be good early on, but you always notice the front of your hip is starting to get achy or pinchy once you hit a certain mile marker. A lot of times I've seen where that's actually been some weakness in those hip flexors. That's the point where they get fatigued. So if they're not tight, they're just not as strong as they need to be. So if you notice a fact where you're noticing a couple, you've been foam rolling a lot, and it still continues to kind of come back, or it's not fixing itself, then maybe that you need to dig a little bit deeper on there. There's something else going on as far as maybe there's some weakness. So moving on, plan. The next phase, if you want to optimize running over age 40, is planning. And part of that planning is planning for life. Life happens. Family emergencies, work, kids, parents, all that stuff is going to happen and occur. That's life. But when it comes down to planning and saying you have a race or an event or something you want to do as well, give yourself grace when it comes to those life happenings, those things that happen in life, but you also want to have a plan for a race. If you've been training consistently, yes, you might be able to say this weekend, I'm going to sign up for the XYZ. But if you haven't been, and all of a sudden the coupon code came up for it, and it's in 2 weeks, and you ain't been running, please don't sign up for the race. Oh, everybody else was doing it. I want to go ahead and hop on and do it. Yeah, you might be, like I said, you might be able to make it. But what's going to happen in the long run with that? And your body can take so much of that kind of abuse or things. It'll be get it done, but it might be ugly type deal. So planning for, if you're doing a fun run or something like that, it's a fun run. You may be walking, you may be doing, but if you're talking about, if you really want to make a serious plan for what your entire year of running looks like and what races you want to do, start mapping that out, because you'll have to be doing different things at different times doing that. So when you're in an active training cycle, the way you eat and the way you supply and add nutrition to your body is going to be different compared to when you're not training. So the problem we end up getting in, if someone is having some weight fluctuations, is that if you're continuing to eat at the same level as you were doing in your training cycle, and you're not in a current training cycle right now, you haven't made those adjustments down back to what your energy levels are going to be at that point in time. Or we get into the thing is that we're going to now sign up for a race and then lose weight at the same time as we're training. Body don't work like that. You got to do one thing. You can't be losing weight. You can't be moving these miles up. Can't be having this fuel and nutrition going up. Something's going to have to give here. So if you have some plans where you're trying to moderate weight or do some things that way, that's good to do that in the off season. get your plan of attack or where you want to do and focus on those things. And then when it's time for your run season, you can now focus on the fuel and nutrition you need for run. Because if you're depriving yourself of food, going on things, restrictive diets, and then you're trying to train, you're wearing your body down. You're increasing the use of risk of injury. Or a lot of times people end up saying, oh, I'm going to do low carb. I'm going to do low carb, do a bunch of HIIT and cardio and run. Well, our body's main fuel is carbohydrates. So if you're just taking and stripping away our body's main fuel, then you're not feeding your muscles. So we're doing an opposite effect, like, oh, I feel like I'm doing good by doing this. And then you're actually negating what you're doing. And also, if you've had any changes or issues with hormones or thyroid or metabolism, if you're doing those super restrictive things, that's also increasing stress on your body. So it's going to be more, your body's going to be taken as more stress, and not, this is a good thing to start shedding weight or whatever your goal may be for that. So I think that one of the greatest risks for injury or not being able to perform at your best is probably progressing too quickly or jumping into a training plan that you weren't ready for. So if you want to be able to have some racing goals, you can't be at your peak at every race. Every race can't be like, this is my PR race, this is my PR race. It takes different type of training to be able to have one or two races that which you want to peak at. Because if you try to make everything your PR, you tend to be more aggressive with that training, and that more aggressive may not turn into what is adequately needed for your body at that time. And you tend to push past of what's an injury versus what's an ache. So that's that fine line, is that if you've been having the same kind of ache that still keeps occurring week after week, that's not a, oh, this just happened because I'm running, or I'm just starting a new routine, I got to work the kinks out, or I got new shoes and it'll get better when the shoes loosen up. The shoes won't loosen up. I'm gonna tell you that right now. If the shoes don't feel good after that one run, the second run, it's time to take them back. They're not gonna loosen up. They're not gonna, oh, break up. There's no breaking them in. Just, you got to take them back. They're not gonna fit for work for you if you start having that too. New shoes as well. Sometimes people get new shoes and then they go and do a long run in those shoes the first day they get them. That's another thing that's going to increase that chance of injury, as well as any new changes prior to your race. Big race coming up, do not change your shoes if it's under 2 weeks before that race. Change them before, get some runs in them, know that you like them and they're feeling good. Then you'd be good to wear those during race time. So those little tidbits that you kind of be like, oh, no big deal, but they add up. They add up over time, and you want to be able to say, what can I do to keep running, walking, scooting, dragging, intervaling, whatever you call when you're on the pavement. If you want to continue to do those things, these are things you can pay attention to that are changed a little bit different as we get older. So leading to the last point, fueling for life. So fueling for life just doesn't mean I have my goos, my gels, my salt packets, all this when I'm running. It also means everyday life. So it's more than obviously just eating or drinking. What to eat, we eat or drink before runs. It's every day. Body changes over age 40. Nutritional guidelines are going to change. We could be deficit in some nutrients. So I always tell people, regardless of what level you're at, you don't want to run competitively, running for races. You're out there running to keep the crazy away, like a lot of us are doing. Make sure you know your numbers and you get your adequate blood work and testing every year. Maybe even a couple of times a year. You want to see if you have any nutritional deficits, vitamin and mineral deficits are on. Those chances increase with, especially in women. Vitamin D, if you live in Indiana, most likely you need to be on a vitamin D supplement. Vitamin D has been historically low in women as well. That actually goes to our recovery and our concentration when we have some deficits in vitamin D, as well as iron is another one that's been historically, a number that's been historically low as well. So knowing these things and then fueling ourselves with as much real food as we can. I'm not an advocate to say you got to be vegetarian, vegan, this or that. You got to find the right mix for you. But every plan, fruits and vegetables, you're not going to go wrong. with incorporating more of those things into your diet as well. So fueling for life, know that all of the macronutrients are important: protein, carbs, and fat. Super duper restriction in one area or other, we still need to optimize and be able to find the right mix. There's not bad carbs and good carbs, there's the right carbs for you. So when we get past that mindset of I got to do this, or oh, I can't eat that because that's a bad carb. There's all different levels of carbohydrates where you can use them in different training cycles, where you can use them in life. So that's why I say it's end up finding the right carbs. Super duper restrictions leads us to injury, burnout, and then we also can be triggering, autoimmune things going on as well when we stress our body down so much with yo-yo dieting, super duper restrictions, going off and on and off and on. It really about, when I'm telling ladies about their eating habits, is let's find something that's sustainable. It's all about your total wellness and what's going to work for your food, not I'm on an XYZ diet, or I'm on this plan for 30 days, or I'm on the next plan for this, or I'm joining one challenge to the next. I'm a challenge jumper. I'm going on the water challenge, going on the carrot challenge, going on the smoothie challenge, and you're bouncing all the way to these challenges. Now, there's nothing wrong with challenges, because challenges could be a good jump start for you to now continue and figure out some other things. But if you're a challenge jumper, your body's also jumping through all those challenges and hoops and things too. So it's harder and harder for your body to recover and repair as we get older, when it has so much variability of up and down and different things of that sort. So the end, but not the end. You can find me at Running After 35 or at Blood Sugar Bay Podcast, Runners University, Women's Guide to Running After 35. Do have a live workshop for attending live today. We have a free, I'm going to be offering my 30-minute one-on-one runner strategy session. That's normally for $97, but those that showed up live today, you're going to get that one session free. So during that session, we can talk about what your plans for the year looks like, map out some things to be able to kind of optimize your running and your performance throughout, for beginning now and on, so that we can kind of really get a better plan and a better guide for you. This is earlier in the year, probably have some goals coming up, or just you have questions about just overall wellness and where you are in your life cycle. Reach out to me via email to go ahead and secure that offer just for showing up today. Next, I've been really working on a particular plan to be able to help runners of a certain age and be able to find resources, because I haven't found any resources online that really focus on the progression of being a master runner. Because, once we're over 35, we're called master runners now, So master runner is, it's actually a term, master runners, really not be able to find some resources for master runners. So then I decided to say, what can I do for runners to be able to help runners of a certain age? So then I just finally got together and launched the Runners University Club, which is an online monthly membership. So I know that everyone just loves searching Dr. Google for endless answers, or searching YouTube videos for injury prevention or this new exercise. Not. So really, I really designed this for a program that's not for all runners, but is for runners over the age of 35 that want to continue to run for life. So part of the content we put on there, I get monthly strength and mobility workouts delivered via email. There's going to be a monthly live Q&A to bring your questions straight to me, and also be around among other runners as well. And I'm going to be adding on running performance. So products, running and racing tips, nutrition and recovery, that's going to be targeted for us. And then I'm actually launching a private podcast. It's just for members only, called The Runner's Mentality. So I'll be releasing probably about 2 to 4 episodes a month for that. It's going to have mindset, motivation, real life of the 40 plus athletes. Some of my other topics include core training versus abdominal training, knowing the difference. Metabolic efficiency training series is going to be teaching the body how to teach the body how to burn more fat. That's actually a book that I was reading. Plant-based sports nutrition series, those that are interested in being more plant-based or incorporating more plants into their diet. Fueling strategies for training, recovery, and performance. The premenopausal and menopausal woman runner. Testosterone changes in men and its impact on running. So those are just a few topics that'll be talked about in the Runner's Mentality, also as part of the Runners University Club. Another one that's very important too is this top things that individuals over 35 need to know about their health numbers. And one of those numbers is about what you need to know about cholesterol. What do you need to know about your inflammation markers? So diving in and be able to look at not only what it looks like to be running and staying on the pavement, but what it looks like to age healthily, gracefully, and be able to be at your best, strong and at your best. So all of this definitely could have been at least probably $300 a month or so, but no, we're not doing that. We're going to offer a special members only for founding members. I'm going to keep the founding members only open just for a few days before I do the larger launch. It's going to be limited to $9.97 a month is what the founding members rate for Runners University Club. I also have some discounts with some different product vendors that are coming up as well. We're also focusing on injury prevention. I just partnered with Inside Tracker, which is actually a company that really cuts through the noise of being able to hone in using your blood, your DNA, and your lifestyle and fitness trackers to provide personalized science-based information. It helps you be able to get, using your blood work, actionable plans on how to live, how to age better and perform better. So that's one of the companies I'm just pairing with now, and I'll be able to have a discount code for Runners University Club members as well. Special $9.97. I'm going to keep this open for a couple of days for founding members launch. My next founding members launch will be here in a few weeks, and then I'm going to close it out, and I know the rate will definitely increase. So you can get locked in at this rate. As long as you're a member, your rate will never increase. So how to get on the list? Just text RUC1 to 317-207-7924. That'll take you directly to the link, secure your spot while that rate is still open. After the founding members launch, it will most likely begin at $19.97, and it most likely will increase along the way as we continue to add great content, and we're going to be adding on guest speakers during those live Q&As as well. Different professionals will also be added in there to be able to get some more comprehensive information. Anybody have any questions for me? You can come off mute and ask any questions that you have.
Hi, Doc. How are you?
Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm good. So is most of this going to be virtual, or will you be doing some things live in person too? Or it'll be a hybrid model?
It'll be all virtual because this is going to be open to runners across the country. So all of the strength and mobility workouts will also, everything is delivered in the first week of the month. So you'll get your monthly runner strength and mobility program offered or sent to you via email. And then throughout the month, you'll get runner's mentality and also some of the extra bonuses that will be delivered via email as well. The live Q&As are going to be on a set night. We just pop open Zoom, have it open, be able to have open discussions, questions, could be training questions. There could be a guest speaker on there, nutrition, dietitians, other healthcare professionals or other runners on there to be able to get some valuable information that's catered for runners over the age 35. Anything else? Let me stop and share over here.